These look so small on this camera. Turn off my volume so I can't hear myself. Chapter 2. Let me grab my notes. Alright, so I'll review chapter 1. So he proposes that sense is a feeling derived from excess force, which was filtered through our sense organs after being received from an external object. So it's just materialism, but he's just using, he's defining terms. Okay, so that was, let's just call this chapter 1 of sense. So it's basically defining that. We'll go on to chapter 2 of imagination. Leave some room for extra notes there. Chapter 2 of imagination. 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 Okay. God. This is a tough read. Okay. That when a thing lies still, unless somewhat else stir it, it will lie still forever, is a truth that no man doubts of. But that when a thing is in motion, it will eternally be in motion, unless somewhat else stay it, though the reason be the same, namely that nothing can change itself, is not so easily assented to. For men measure not only other men, but all other things by themselves, and because they find themselves subject after motion to pain and lassitude, uh, what is lassitude? Lassitude. Sorry, lassitude. A state of physical or mental weariness, lack of energy. That's a good word, lassitude. Never going to use that in my life. Or remember it. All right, so for men measure not only other men, but all other things by themselves. So they don't just measure other people by themselves, but they measure everything by themselves. Yeah. And because they find themselves subject, after motion, to pain and lassitude, what does that mean? Weariness. Think everything else grows weary of motion and seeks repose of its own accord, little considering whether it be not some other motion wherein that desire of rest they find in themselves consisteth. Um, so he's saying it's hard for us to wrap our head around like the second law of motion or whatever. Yeah, I think that's the second law of motion, that it will stay in motion until acted upon by another force, because people get tired. So we're used to the idea of, getting tired and wanting to rest. But he says that, getting tired and wanting to rest is My eyes are so blue. uh, Getting tired and wanting to rest is part of the aim or whatever. It's not, it's not actually resting. It's actually in service to the motion. When a body is once in motion, it moveth unless something else hinder it eternally, and whatsoever hindereth it cannot in an instant, but in time and by degrees, quite extinguish it. And as we see in the water, though the winds cease, the waves give not over rolling for a long time after. So also it happeneth in that motion which is made in the internal parts of a man, then when he sees dreams, etc. And when we see in water, though the winds cease, the waves give not over rolling for a long time after. The waves continue. So also it happeneth that in motion which is made in the internal parts of a man. Oh, then when he sees dreams, etc. So he's saying like much like ripples continue after the event. Um, there's certain things that can continue internally after external events happen to us. Jesus, it is just the most wordy. It is. It's hard to read, and then after you read the words, you got to reread the words, and then you got to understand it. Come to us. No. For after the object is removed, or the eye shut, we still retain an image of the thing seen, though more obscure than when we see it. Like an after image when you close your eyes. And this is it. The Latins call imagination, from the image made in seeing, and apply the same, though improperly, to all the other senses. Interesting. But the Greeks call it fancy, which signifies appearance, and is as proper to one's sense as to another. I said the Latins call it imagination, but the Greeks called it fancy. Okay. Imagination, therefore, is nothing but decaying sense. It's interesting. He's almost talking about this in terms of computation, um, because it kind of takes um, like a CPU or a counter or an adder takes the energy from the little 64 inputs and filters it essentially. It's just filtering it and amplifying it and refiltering it. Imagination, therefore, is nothing but decaying sense, and is found in men and many other living creatures, as, as well sleeping as waking. That's an interesting. That's an interesting hypothesis. Imagination, therefore, is nothing but decaying sense, and is found in men and many other living creatures, as well sleeping as waking. So it's like our dreams are echoes of external stimuli. That's an interesting explanation. How long is this chapter? Oh my God. Every sentence. Well, we can't do the whole chapter. Maybe. The decay of sense in men waking is not the decay of the motion made in sense, but an obscuring of it, in such manner as the light of the sun obscureth the light of the stars, which stars do no less exercise their virtue, by which they are visible in the day than in the night. But because amongst many strokes with our eyes, ears, and other organs received from external bodies, the predominant only is sensible, therefore the light of the sun being predominant, we are not affected with the actions of the stars. And any object being removed from our eyes, though the impression it made in us remain, yet other objects more prescient succeeding and working on us, the imagination of the past is obscured and made weak, as the voice of a man is in the noise of the day. From whence it followeth that the longer the time is after the sight or sense of any object, the weaker is the imagination. For the continual change of a man's body destroy in time the parts which in sense were moved, so that the distance of time and of place hath one and the same effect in us. For as, at a great distance of place, that which we look at appears dim and without distinction of the smaller parts, and the voices grow weak and inarticulate, so also, after great distance of time, our imagination of the past is weak, and we lose, for example, of cities we have seen, many particular streets, and of actions, many particular circumstances. This decaying sense, when we would express the thing itself, I mean fancy itself, we call imagination, as I have said before. But when we would express the decay and signify that the sense is fading, old, and past, it is called memory. So that imagination and memory are but one thing, which for diverse considerations hath diverse names. So I think he's trying to build a mechanical explanation of reality, where everything is explained by what was popular at the time. It was before Newton, Darwin, Aristotle. Is Aristotle than the other guy? Newton, Galileo. Galileo, that's who it was. So the Galileo thing was just like real popular at the time. It's kind of like what we do with computation theory, where we come up with a new theory and then we kind of ham fist it into bigger ideas about the universe and everything. Okay, I don't know if I want to read 500 pages of this shit. Much memory, or memory of many things, is called experience. Again, imagination being only one of those things which have been formerly perceived by sense, either all at once or by parts at several times, the former, which is the imagining the whole object as it was presented to the sense, is a simple imagination, as when one imagineth a man or horse which he has seen before. The other is compounded, as when from the sight of a man at one time, and of a horse at another, we conceive in our mind a centaur. So when a man compoundeth the image of his own person with the image of the actions of another man, as when a man imagines himself as Hercules or an Alexander, which happeneth often to them that are much taken with reading of romances, it is compound imagination, and properly but a fiction of the mind. There also be other imaginations that rise in men, though waking, from the great impression made in sense, as from gazing upon the sun. The impression leaves an image of the sun before our eyes a long time after, and from being long and vehemently attent upon geometrical figures, a man shall in the dark, though awake, have the images of lines and angles before his eyes, which kind of fancy hath no particular name, as being a thing that doth not commonly fall into men's discourse. The imaginations of them that sleep are those we call dreams, and these also, as all other imaginations, have been before, either totally or by parcels, in the sense. And because the brain and nerves, which are necessary organs of sense, are so benumbed in sleep as not easily to be moved by the action of external objects, there can happen in sleep no imagination, and therefore no dream, but what proceeds from the agitation of the inward parts of a man's body, which inward parts for the connections. I suppose that's a weird way to spell connection. Spells it with an X. Connection they have with the brain and other organs when they be distempered, to keep the same in motion, whereby the imaginations there formerly made appear as if a man were walking, saving that the organs of sense being now benumbed, so as there is no new object which can master and obscure them with a more vigorous impression, a dream must needs be more clear in this silence of sense than our waking thoughts. Dude, that was one sentence. Hang on. Dude, this is like a massive sentence. It's like a paragraph. Here, I'm going to read this one sentence again. And because the brains and nerves, which are the necessary organs of sense, are so benumbed in sleep as not easily to be moved by the action of external objects, there can happen in sleep no imagination, and therefore no dream, but what proceeds from the agitation of the inward parts of man's body, which inward parts, for the connection they have with the brain and other organs, when they be distempered, do keep the same in motion, whereby the imaginations there formerly made appear as if a man were walking, saving that the organs of sense being now benumbed, so as there is no new object which can master and obscure them with a more vigorous impression, a dream must needs be more clear in this silence of sense our than are our waking thoughts. That was one sentence. And hence it cometh to pass that it is a hard matter, and by many thought impossible, to distinguish exactly between sense and dreaming. For my part, when I consider that in dreams I do not often nor constantly think of the same persons, places, objects, and actions that I do waking, nor remember so long a train of coherent thoughts dreaming as at other times, and because waking I often observe the absurdity of dreams, but never dream of the absurdity of my waking thoughts, I am well satisfied that being awake, I know I dream not, though when I dream, I think myself awake. And seeing dreams are caused by distemper of some of the inward parts of the body, diverse distempers must needs cause different dreams, and hence it is that lying cold breedeth dreams of fear, and raiseth the thought and image of some fearful object, the motion from the brain to the inner parts, and from the inner parts to the brain being reciprocal, and that as anger causeth heat in some parts of the body when we are awake, so when we sleep, the overheating of the same parts causeth anger, and raiseth up an imagination of the enemy, of an enemy, In the same manner, as natural kindness, when we are awake, causeth desire, and desire make heat in certain other parts of the body. So also too much heat in those parts while we sleep raiseth in the brain an imagination of some kindness shown. And some, our dreams are the reverse of our waking imaginations, the motion when we are awake beginning at one end, and when we dream at the other. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get into evolution or universal evolution, but I can see where those ideas may have came from. The most difficult discerning of a man's dream from his waking thoughts is then, when by some accident we observe, not that we have slept, which is easy to happen to a man full of fearful thoughts, and whose conscience is much troubled, and that sleepeth without the circumstance of going to bed, or putting off his clothes, as one that noddeth in a chair. For he that taketh pains, and industriously lays himself to sleep, in case any uncouth and exorbitant fancy come upon him, cannot easily think it other than a dream. Okay. We read of Marcus Brutus, one that had his life given him by Julius Caesar, and was also his favorite, and notwithstanding murdered him. Now at Philippi, Philippi, I don't know how to say that. The night before he gave battle to Augustus Caesar, he saw a fearful apparition, which is commonly related by historians as a vision, but considering the circumstances, one may easily judge to have been but a short dream. For sitting in his tents, pensive and troubled with the horror of his rash act, it was not hard for him, slumbering in the cold, to dream of that which most affrighted him, which fear, as by degrees it made him wake, so also it must needs make the apparition by degrees to vanish; and having no assurance that he slept, he could have no cause to think it a dream, or anything but a vision. And this is no rare accident, for even they that be perfectly awake, if they be timorous and superstitious, possessed with fearful tales, and alone in the dark, are subject to the like fancies, and believe they see spirits and dead men's ghosts walking in churchyards, whereas it is either their fancy only, or else the knavery of such persons as make use of such superstitious fear to pass disguised in the night to places they would not be known to haunt. Timorous, timorous, lassitude, weariness, timorous, 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 timorous. Showing you're suffering from nervousness, fear, or lack of confidence. Oh, ha, that's me. can't talk to women. I just until they go away. And then I cry. It works 100% of the time. Timorous. From this ignorance of how to distinguish dreams and other strong fancies from vision and sense did arise the greatest part of the religion, like Gentiles in the past time, that worshipped satyrs, fauns, nymphs, and the like. And nowadays the opinion that rude people have of fairies, ghosts, and goblins, and the power of witches. For as for witches, I think not that their witchcraft is any real power, but yet that they are justly punished for the false belief they have that they can do such mischief, joined with their purpose to do it if they can, their trade being nearer to a new religion than to a craft or science. He said, For as for witches, I think not that their witchcraft is any real power, but that they are justly punished. He's like, I don't care if they don't have real powers. I still think you should burn them. Jesus. Oh man, that is beautiful. What a savage. And for fairies and walking ghosts, the opinion of them has, I think, been on purpose, either taught or not confused, to keep in credit the use of exorcism, of crosses of holy water, and other such inventions of ghostly men. Nevertheless, there is no doubt but God can make unnatural apparitions, but that he does it so often as men need to fear such things more than they fear the stay or change of the course of nature, which he also can stay and change, is not so point of Christian faith. But evil men, under pretext that God can do anything, are so bold as to say anything when it comes to serve their turn. Though they think it untrue, it is the part of a wise man to believe them no further than right reason makes that which they say appear credible. If this superstitious fear of spirits were taken away, and with it prognostics of dreams, false prophecies, and many other things depending thereon, by which crafty and ambitious persons abuse the simple people, men would be much more fitted than they are for civil obedience. And this ought to be the work of the schools, but they rather nourish such doctrine. For, not knowing what imaginations or senses are, what they receive they teach, some saying that imaginations rise of themselves and have no cause, others saying that they rise most commonly from the will, and that good thoughts are blown or inspired into a man by God, and evil thoughts by the devil, or that good thoughts are poured and fused into a man by God, and evil ones by the devil. Some say the senses receive the species of things and deliver them to the common sense, and the common sense delivers them over to the fancy, and the fancy to the memory, and the memory to the judgment, like handing of things from one to another with many words, making nothing understood. The imagination that it is raised in man or any other creature endued with the faculty of imagining by words or other voluntary signs is that we generally call understanding. And is common to man and beast. For a dog by custom will understand the call or the rating of his master, and so many other beasts. That understand that understanding which is peculiar to man is the understanding not only his will, but his conceptions and thoughts by the sequel and contexture of the names of things into affirmations, negations, and other forms of speech. And of this kind of understanding I shall speak hereafter. So he's saying basically, I'm going to talk about human understanding. It's crazy how much my own thoughts are shaped by this guy. It's just with more modern terminology to express the ideas. Hey, I come across the stream and I like what you're building up so far. I have new creek streamers going organically burst. But go away, Mr. Botman. I don't care for you. I don't care for you. I don't want your bots. I don't want to be a part of your little follow me, follow you streamer team. I don't want to do that. No. No, I want to read book. I read book and I record myself read book. Okay? Go away. Go away. All right, we did get through chapter 3. We got to write something on imagination. What was the sequence of events? It's like a handing of things off to. Here it is. No. I don't know why he says the species of things, but sensors receive. No, that's not what he thinks. Okay, whatever. Um, reciprocal dreams are okay. So imagination is it's like internal um prosody of the sense. Dreams are type of nation, but we also imagine during the day. It's just easier at night because external sense is off. So internal reciprocal sense is more predominantly salient. Let's see. I don't know what is this last part. He vaguely introduces understanding. The imagination that is raised in man or any other creature endued with the faculty of imagining by words or the other voluntary signs is that which we generally call understanding. Oh, so he's saying when we affect our when we make our imagination come out voluntarily. I don't know why he's using the word voluntarily, but um, the ways that we make our imagination come out are is understanding. So um, the the ways in the sense leaks out. We'll call it leaks out voluntarily. I'll put that in quotes. And in parentheses, I'll do like with speech, God speaking. So is called understanding. Okay. That he only gave like one sentence to that. Are you kidding me? All right, we made it to chapter 3. I need a bookmark. I think I got a gold bookmark over here. I don't work out my abs. Hobbes is Leviathan. I'm reading it for funsies. I'm reading it for funsies. Let's see what I got. Okay, I got a gold bookmark. It's actually real gold. 24 karat gold. And it's also uh, local currency in Utah. It's called a goldback. Well, anyway, chapter 2 has been read. I hate this book. No, I'm kidding. It's pretty good. I just hate how wordy it is. But I'm not really one to talk. My Substack is super wordy. All right, y'all. If there's anybody watching, I appreciate it. I do streams whenever. I'll see you guys later.